No one expected the loudest man in rock to choose a home shaped by silence. Yet in the hills of Calabasas, Tommy Lee's mansion tells a gentler story. Steady, grounded, almost impossible to reconcile with the chaos that once defined him. The first time he stepped inside, he understood something he hadn't realized on stage. He didn't need volume to feel alive anymore. What he needed was space, light, and a life finally moving at his own rhythm. But before stepping into his life 2025, let's go back to 1962, the moment that set everything in motion. Tommy Lee was born in Athens, Greece, to a soldier father and a mother who once held the Miss Greece crown, a life that started far from the arenas he would one day command. When the family moved to California a year later, the soundtrack of his childhood began to shift, and at 4 years old, holding his first drumsticks, he found the beat that would carry him through decades of thunder, the same beat that would later make this calm, unexpected home feel like the final, steady note he had been chasing all along. As a teenager, Tommy Lee gravitated toward hard rock and heavy metal. Kiss, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. Loud, wild, larger than life. Those sounds flipped a switch inside him. He joined the high school marching band, but the dream was already outgrowing the classroom. By senior year, he walked away, choosing drum kits and late-night rehearsals over a diploma. It wasn't rebellion, it was certainty. His first real break came with Studio 19, a band grinding through the Sunset Strip in the early 80s. The nights were neon-lit and chaotic, full of young musicians fighting for a stage that mattered. One of them was Nikki Sixx. The moment Sixx watched Tommy play, sharp, fearless, completely unrestrained, he knew he'd found the drummer he'd been looking for. Tommy left Studio 19, and the two began shaping something new. Mick Mars joined soon after, and Tommy brought in Vince Neil, a familiar face from high school. With that, Mötley Crüe took its first breath. The early years were raw and unapologetically loud. In 1981, they released Too Fast for Love on their own small label. A year later, Elektra Records picked it up, and everything shifted. Over the next decade, the band tore through the charts with Shout at the Devil, Theater of Pain, Girls, 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 and Dr. Feelgood. Tommy became the group's heartbeat, not just drumming, but performing, spinning kits, floating above crowds, turning each solo into a spectacle. On stage and off, the crew lived at full volume, a reality later captured in Netflix's The Dirt. By the late 90s, Tommy began searching for something new. In 1999, he launched Methods of Mayhem, a rap metal project that pushed him far beyond the crew's familiar edges. Then came a solo chapter. Never a dull moment in 2002, Ozfest appearances, and the growing realization that he could build a career outside the band and enjoy it. Still, Mötley Crüe was never truly gone. In 2004, the original lineup reunited for Red, White, and Crüe, a double album that went quadruple platinum. The massive Better Live Than Dead tour in 2005, 81 shows, proved the energy was still there, just as loud as ever. Tommy kept expanding his world, reality TV. His autobiography, Tommyland. More solo ventures, more reinvention. Even in 2020, decades after holding his first drumsticks, he was preparing for a stadium tour with Mötley Crüe, Poison, Def Leppard, and Joan Jett. Postponed by the pandemic, but never abandoned. For the kid who once left high school to chase noise, the journey never settled. It just kept reshaping itself, louder and wider with every chapter. Through every reinvention, Tommy never lost the spark that pulled him into music as a child, the instinct to follow energy wherever it led. His career didn't unfold in straight lines, but in waves, loud and raw, shaped by risk, momentum, and the urge to keep creating. And now that same instinct takes him somewhere quieter, into his Calabasas home, where he finds his rhythm again. Mansion in Calabasas. Hidden high in the Vista Point Hills,
Tommy Lee's Calabasas home doesn't announce itself with sharp lines or flashy angles. It just sits there, warm, low, wrapped in palms that sway like they've been guarding it for years. From the street, the house feels more like a retreat than a statement, the kind of place someone arrives at only after learning what quiet is worth. When Tommy bought it in 2007 for $5.85 million, he didn't choose it for scale or luxury. He chose it because it felt like the first address where life could finally slow down. Step inside, and the feeling shifts again. The house opens with a 3-story atrium, its retractable skylight pulling sunlight straight into the center of the home. Greenery climbs upward, koi glide through the pond below, and the whole space hums with a soft, tropical warmth. It's Balinese in spirit, slow, grounded, shaped by wood, stone, and the quiet movement of air. This is the part of the house that makes you pause. Even Tommy says it's where his mind finally settles. From the atrium, the home flows outward in warm, earthy tones. The main living room sits beneath a bamboo-lined ceiling, washed in gold light. Floor-to-ceiling glass opens to the hills, letting Calabasas stretch wide behind the sofa. The textures here feel lived in. Thick rugs, soft upholstery, and walls that hold echoes of distant places. Buddha paintings, carved wood, small details that speak to the years he spent searching for stillness. A few steps away, another lounge curves around a red velvet sofa, anchored by an ornate piano that looks more like sculpture than instrument. The kitchen brings a different rhythm, grounded, familiar, almost domestic. Dark wood cabinets line the walls, granite tops catch the afternoon sun, and a long marble island sits at the center, solid and quiet. From the window, a small statue looks out toward the garden, adding a hint of spirituality to a room built for simple routines. It's the kitchen of someone who has learned to slow down, someone who doesn't need a crowd to feel at home. Upstairs, the bedrooms are shaped with softer lines. The primary suite opens directly onto a terrace overlooking the valley, a private corner where mornings unfold unhurried. Inside, the tones stay gentle and muted. Textured walls, a low platform bed, and a chandelier that casts warm light across the room. The private office carries a quiet, deliberate calm. Shelves filled with books, dark wood beams above, and a desk facing the light. The space moves at a slower rhythm, built for long thoughts and steady focus rather than quick decisions. But the house doesn't forget who it belongs to. Downstairs, behind a thick door, sits the room where his real work happens. The studio where countless high-level tracks have taken shape. Red walls, stacked gear racks, and a massive control board fill the space with a focused, almost electric calm. Nothing about it is flashy. It's built for precision, for long sessions, for the kind of creativity that needs privacy more than applause. A blue-lit hallway leads to a small theater, where leather recliners face a wide screen and a concession bar waits for late-night movie runs or slow reviews of new mixes. Outside, the tempo slows again. The saltwater pool curves like a piano set into stone, glowing turquoise at night. Water falls softly from the spa above, and torches flicker around the terrace. From here, the city drops away, just hills, sky, and a wide view that turns stillness into something you can feel. An outdoor kitchen sits nearby, a place for quiet nights, unhurried meals, and conversations that drift long after the lights come on. Here, even the air feels slower. Every room seems to hold a softer version of him, the man who learned to trade chaos for clarity. This isn't luxury for display. It's the calm he fought years to finally earn. But Calabasas is only one version of him. Across the city, his Los Angeles home reveals another side, sharper, faster, built for a different pulse. Mansion in Los Angeles. Tucked behind a quiet bend in Brentwood, Tommy Lee's Los Angeles home doesn't try to impress at first glance. It lowers itself into the landscape, sheltered by tall bamboo and softened by the sound of running water. The shift from road to entry is almost imperceptible. One moment you're in the city, the next you're stepping into a place that seems to breathe on its own. For a man who spent decades surrounded by noise, the house feels like a deliberate counterpoint, chosen less for spectacle than for the calm it promises. The entrance sets the tone immediately. A koi pond wraps along the stone path, its surface broken only by slow-moving ripples and flashes of orange beneath the water. The air cools slightly as you walk through, and the garden gathers around you. Layered greenery, filtered light, and an understated stillness that lingers long after the door closes. Inside, the living room opens in a long stretch of wood and glass. Wide panels pull the garden inward, blurring the line between interior and exterior until the room feels like an extension of the landscape. Light moves softly here, sliding across pale floors and rising up the exposed beams overhead. The furniture is low, warm, and intentionally sparse, pieces chosen with restraint, as if the house wanted space to think. There is a warmth in the minimalism, a kind of simplicity that feels lived, not staged. Nearby, a small Japanese-style tea house anchors the corner of the property. It's a compact room, just clean lines, natural wood, and windows framing the pond outside. The space doesn't announce its purpose. It simply waits. It's easy to imagine him slipping inside barefoot, letting the quiet fold around him before a long day. There's nothing extravagant here, only intentionality. The kitchen continues that quiet discipline. Cabinetry runs in uninterrupted horizontal lines, the wood grain softened by daylight that pours in from the gardens. A long island sits steady in the center, its surface smooth and cool, inviting slow mornings rather than hurried ones. The room feels practical but gentle, shaped for daily rituals. A cup of coffee, a quiet breakfast, a moment of anchoring before the rest of the world begins. The home's 4 bedrooms follow the same philosophy. The primary suite opens directly to a private garden where bamboo leans toward the light and the koi pond curls close to the walls. It's the spot he walks to first thing in the morning, letting the quiet settle in as he watches the fish drift beneath the surface. Inside, the palette stays muted. Linen textures, soft edges, warm lamps scattering a gentle glow across the room. A space meant to restore, not impress. Every corner moving at a slower pace, made for someone who now values unhurried mornings. Even the bathrooms echo this calm. Stone sinks, deep soaking tubs, and windows that open to the garden create a spa-like quiet. There's no shine, no harsh surfaces, only the pleasant solidity of natural materials. Everything feels chosen for how it holds light, how it absorbs sound, how it makes the body unwind without thinking. Stepping outside, the house dissolves back into its landscape. Decks extend toward the water, offering pockets of space for dinners, late conversations, or simple moments when the evening air feels enough. Lanterns glow softly after sunset, catching the movement of the koi and the sway of bamboo. The city feels far away here, not because of distance, but because the space insists on another pace entirely. What lingers in this house is a quiet kind of truth. After years of living at full volume, he's learned to settle into spaces that steady him. Every corner feels intentional, shaped not by fame, but by a man finally choosing the pace that fits his life. Beyond that quiet, another rhythm defines him still, the one written in engines, metal, and the way he moves on the road. Car collection. It's impossible to ignore the car that mirrors the fire he carried on stage for decades, the matte black Ferrari F8. There's something almost poetic about seeing him behind the wheel of a machine built to hit hard and move fast. The twin-turbo 5.8 pushes out 710 horsepower, but what makes the car his isn't the speed, it's the way he settles into it. No showmanship, no revving for attention. just a quiet grin as he slips the car into gear and lets the road stretch out in front of him. The F8, valued around $330,000, feels like the last piece of his rock and roll past that he still enjoys carrying. But a life can't run on fire alone, and Tommy knows that now. That's why the Mercedes-Benz E-Class W212 sits so comfortably in the middle of his days. It's the car he chooses when the schedule is simple. Morning coffee runs, quick errands, slow drives with his wife on warm afternoons. The E-Class doesn't demand anything from him. It doesn't roar. It doesn't ask to be noticed. It just moves steadily, letting him disappear into the quiet. At roughly $18,000, it might be the least dramatic car he owns, yet it fits this calmer version of him better than anything else in the driveway. And then there's the Rolls-Royce Wraith, the car that holds the space between his two worlds. Heavy, matte black, with a V12 that hums instead of shouts. The Wraith gives him something the others don't, a sense of stillness wrapped in luxury. Inside, the cabin feels almost like a private lounge. Thick leather seats that warm under him, soft lighting that settles along the doors, and a starlight headliner that turns the roof into a quiet sky. When he slides behind the wheel, there's no urgency, no edge, just comfort, depth, and the kind of quiet he never had in his 20s. Priced around $320,000, it isn't about prestige. It's about having a place where the noise finally stays outside. Seen together, his cars trace the arc of a loud life settling into something steadier. The thrill, the calm, the quiet in between, all folded into three machines that say more about him today than any stage ever could. And just beyond the garage sits another story: the money, the deals, and the long climb that shaped his net worth. Income and net worth. There's a certain clarity to the way Tommy Lee's finances look in 2025, the kind that only arrives after decades lived at full volume. His net worth now sits at $70 million, a figure that no longer chases the adrenaline of the past, but instead reflects a life that has finally taken its time. The most dramatic lift came not from a new project, but from a familiar sound. When Mötley Crüe stepped back into stadiums in 2022, the return felt almost improbable. Thousands of fans, the old thunder, the same pulse. That single tour delivered $14 million to Tommy, a reminder that the machine he helped build in the 80s can still shape his financial world with one long summer on the road. Yet the real engine now works in silence. The band's catalog, once the soundtrack of a reckless era, brings in $2 million each year. It arrives quietly, through quarterly royalties and licensing checks, steady, predictable, and strangely gentle compared to the life that created it. His other revenue streams move with the same measured pace. Solo releases, guest features, and past projects contribute $800,000 annually. Television, documentary rights, and archival licensing add another $400,000. None of it is loud, but together they create the quiet scaffolding of his present life, the financial equivalent of a low, steady hum. Real estate has always marked Tommy's life in ways money alone can't explain. The Malibu home he bought on February 14, 1995, $837,886, a strangely precise figure for a moment so impulsive, later sold for $2,500,000. The profit, nearly $1,662,114, closed a chapter filled with both the heat of early love and the weight of everything that followed. It wasn't just a transaction. It was the end of a world he once lived in at full speed. The Calabasas estate held a different kind of story. Tommy purchased it for $5,850,000, a home built for quiet rather than noise. When he eventually sold it for $3,650,000 in 2023, the $2,200,000 loss didn't feel dramatic, at least not to him. It was simply the financial shape of a decision he had already made, to leave behind a place that no longer matched the rhythm of his life. Taken together, these streams, touring, royalties, media, and property, shape an annual income of $5 million. It's a number that doesn't need to be shouted. It fits the pace he lives now, comfortable, grounded, and free of the chaos that once defined every corner of his world. His financial story doesn't shout the way his music once did. It moves slow, steady, like someone finally choosing depth over speed. The fortune is real, but the stillness around it is the part he values now. Behind those steady figures lies a gentler truth, the ways he supports others when no one is looking. Let's take a closer look. Philanthropy. Tommy Lee has never styled himself as a philanthropist. He avoids the announcements and the cameras, choosing instead a quieter rhythm of giving, steady, deliberate, and carried with the same intensity that once powered his life on stage. His deepest instinct has always leaned toward protecting the vulnerable, especially animals. In 2018, he donated $650,000 to PETA, directing the money toward marine rescue efforts and rehabilitation programs for injured sea life. It was a gift made without ceremony, the kind that reflects a private conviction rather than a public gesture. His empathy stretches beyond animals to young people living on the margins. During a charity dinner connected to Mötley Crüe's reunion cycle, Tommy pledged $500,000 to Covenant House, helping expand housing and counseling services for homeless and at-risk teens. It was a way of acknowledging how thin the line can be between finding a path and losing one. When the Maui wildfires tore through neighborhoods in 2023, he reacted with the same urgency he once brought to a live show: quiet, decisive, immediate. Tommy sent $200,000 to the Maui Strong Fund to support displaced families, rebuilding grants and emergency medical care. His interest in healing extends to cities far from the spotlight. He contributed $150,000 to Project Home in Philadelphia, specifically to grow a music therapy program for adults emerging from homelessness, a cause that resonated with him as someone who has seen how creativity can rebuild a life. And during the winter of 2024, he donated $900,000 to St. Francis food pantries and shelters, helping fund more than 50,000 warm meals and holiday clothing drives. It was a small gesture in the grand scale of his career, but one carried out with the sincerity of someone who understands what it means to go without. Taken together, these gifts reveal a softer truth about Tommy, one that lives far from the glare of arenas. His philanthropy isn't loud or strategic. It's human, practical, and rooted in a desire to ease someone else's burden, even if only for a moment. Beside those contributions is the private life he keeps for himself, steady, grounded, and gentler than anyone might expect. Personal life. Tommy Lee's life now unfolds at a quieter pace, one far removed from the chaos that once followed him. He and his wife still live primarily in their Calabasas home, a steady place that grounds their everyday rhythm. But whenever they want a different kind of calm, a shift in mood, a softer kind of quiet, they retreat to their Japanese-inspired house in Los Angeles. That space, with its clean lines, muted light, and garden that feels more like a meditation than a backyard, offers the stillness Calabasas can't always give. In Los Angeles, the garden has become Tommy's favorite room. He spends long stretches tending to his bonsai, bending branches, wiring curves, shaping each tree with the same instinctive precision he once reserved for drum patterns. When the sun drops behind the roofline, he steps toward the koi pond, watching the water ripple as the fish rise to meet his hand. These are the moments, slow, deliberate, uncomplicated, that anchor his sense of peace. At home, life moves with familiar companions. His dog, a long-haired shadow that appears in nearly everything he does, follows him from the studio to the porch, demanding attention with a patience only years of loyalty can teach. Tommy jokes with him, talks to him, even stages playful scenes caught on camera, tiny rituals that make his past life feel impossibly distant. The rhythm shifts when touring calls, though even that world has softened. Backstage, he leans into old friendships, arms around bandmates, laughter that sounds like a memory of who they were at 20. On off nights, he takes his wife out for dinners that drift from simple to extravagant, the two of them stealing pockets of calm no matter how loud the city gets. And when the travel winds down, they circle back to Calabasas, the home base that has held every version of him. He may split his time now, seeking quiet in Los Angeles and comfort in routine, but Calabasas remains his center, a place he never fully leaves, even as his life finally settles into gentler shape. The man who once lived at full volume now builds his days in careful layers: love, ritual, stillness, and familiarity. His world hasn't shrunk, it has focused. And in that focus, he's found the peace that eluded him for decades. If this glimpse into Tommy's quieter world resonated with you, subscribe Chanel to keep traveling with us through the stories behind the spotlight.